All right, as y'all know, I love to bring you what's working in the market right now. And this is definitely one of those strategies I think you can go and implement immediately, make an extra few $1,000s a month. We're going to be doing a full training on it here in a couple of weeks, but I wanted to give you a primer so that you kind of understand the dynamics and a little bit of the story. So we're going to hit the ground running on that upcoming full training. So back in 2017, I was doing a deal that I've mentioned here a little bit. It was in the locksmith industry. A friend of mine had come to me. He had a family member who was exiting his locksmith business, and he basically came to me and said, "Hey, my uncle wants to sell his business, but he needs some help, and can you help figure it out?" And I talked to the uncle. I realized he didn't really have a business that was sellable, and I kind of felt bad, but he was doing all the work himself. He had kind of one van was his only asset, and then the equipment to do all the locksmith work. And there just wasn't a lot there. But I'm glad that this was a close friend because it was one of those things where I just was wrecking my brain on how can we structure something with this guy so he can exit his business, at least get something for it, even if it's just all on an earnout. And the one thing that he had that was valuable was a really great Google listing and website that was generating these leads because he had been doing it for forever. And he basically had built up a great reputation and was getting leads. And so we ended up structuring a deal with him. I went back and said, "Hey, if you're okay with doing this, then I'm going to see if I can make something work." So we did a deal where it was all earn out. And I went to the people that weren't ranked as high and didn't have all of those reviews. Maybe they were newer in the industry. And I basically told them that were on the second page of the Google search for this city. And it wasn't that big a city. But I went to them and they said, "Hey, if I can send you leads, will you give me a 50% cut and you get a 50% cut?" And the first guy I talked to was like, "Yes." So we started working with him. We actually started ramping up. I realized that we can do some ads and started on leads. He got overwhelmed, and so we made a deal with a second locksmith person, and we gave them kind of this similar deal. The funny thing was, I intended to start at 50% and then go to a 70% deal structure after that, and with them getting 70, me getting 30, but they were happy with the 50, so we didn't even have to do the negotiation. And so the second guy kind of him and hawed about it, but then gave in to the 50 as well. So we ended up with this deal where we were sending them the leads. We were generating them from that listing. I was giving a portion of the earnings back to the seller. We managed this kind of process. There wasn't a ton of work to do. We actually eventually even had the calls going to a call center. At first, I had a partner in the deal that was kind of handling some of that headache. But we got a call center, and they would just forward the calls. It was a very cool thing. If they didn't answer, then it came back to the call center because the leads were valuable enough that we didn't want to lose those. Now, here is the bottom line of that model. What we later realized, and I got this from a book that is actually one of my favorite books, especially from that time period. It was written by a guy, DeMarco. I'm gonna put a link down in the description to this book because all of you should read it, and a lot of you probably already have, especially if you're following me. So he had a deal that was similar. It was in the limo space where he was sending these leads and gathering. It was basically just lead generation business. And that's when I realized, like, wait a minute, this can be a business. And so we ended up going to other cities, and we would, in some cases, either buy a listing, go after old listings, or just start a new website and get it ranked, and then send the leads to these other people. I call this my offline affiliate income model. And here's what is really cool: is over the last couple of years, we've had some of the acquisition holdco members that have implemented this strategy as well. We've got one guy, Luke, who is an avid supporter of the channel. He's also an acquisition holdco member, and he just has gotten a deal like that. That's basically this offline deal that's going to offline business that they actually already have tens of thousands of people in the database that he's going to be able to leverage. Actually, I need to bring him on the channel. We can talk a little bit about that deal, but the really cool thing is this same model of generating income with an offline business. And it can go both ways, where they may be sending leads to somebody else and you're making money off of that, or you're sending them leads, and we're going to be talking about in the upcoming training how to implement this. I love it because you can set this up so that it's income that's like semi-passive, and you build these relationships with business. So in the most recent example, I talked about the contracting business that does a lot of business with with the franchise industry. It's industry that we end up going into. Actually, in the Patreon, there is a full training on this. It basically talks about how we generate an extra $50,000 just with this little model that anybody, you don't even need to be in business to implement that. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely join the Patreon. If you're in the Patreon, be sure to check out that training. It was got really, really great reviews. Now, here is the thing that I think is awesome right now and what we're adding. Now, in the last video, I am going to come back and do some more training on the option strategy. I saw your question. I saw you said, hey, I don't understand completely. This sounds really interesting. Like, break it down in a little more simple terms. So I am going to come back to that. But I mentioned that there are basically three types of special purpose vehicles that everybody should have. So no matter what business you're in, you should basically have these three subsidiaries of your business. Now, I'm going to put that into a holdco structure, but even if you're not in a holdco structure, you should have these three subsidiaries that you're able to grow and then exit. The first one is the hedge fund SPV that we talked about. So this is just your investment where you're taking some of the extra cash and you're using that other income strategy in the stock market to generate more income. The second one is the bookkeeping entity. You should have a bookkeeping, like every holdco should have a bookkeeping company that's not only working for your businesses, but working for other businesses and future acquisitions and doing that work. And then the third one is this affiliate income SPV. So every holdco should have a version of this that is generating these leads. Because no matter what business you're in, you're getting some leads and you're not maximizing the value. I can tell you that right now. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this model. I started with that in 2017. The book that I mentioned, I think he was doing this back in 2012. But I think a lot of people may think, oh, well, you can't do that kind of thing today. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this offline income model. And, as we end 2023, get into 2024, what are things going to look like? Obviously, times are changing. Things have changed a lot. For me, we always know in technology, they're always going to keep on changing. So I wanted to give you kind of the lay of the land, what the landscape looks like as we talk about this model. It's something that I hope a lot of y'all that are subscribers implement this and generates, extra a few $1,000s. What I'm finding now is that we're getting away from just selling the leads, which is, it's one of the easier things to do. It's just like, hey, I'm going to send you a lead. Can you pay me this amount of money for it? The other part of this, though, is that now we're getting paid just monthly fees, and then we just send them all of the leads. So I mentioned the franchise construction company. The owner of that came to me and basically had a landscape company that was in the same situation as the locksmith deal. So he had come to me and basically said, hey, I've got this landscaper. Like, I don't really want to buy the business. It's he's too tied into the business. How can I structure this? Blah, blah, blah. But again, we were able to make a deal that basically got his ratings, his ranking, and his website that got great traffic and all of that. So we just made a deal for that. And then we went to another landscape company. And in that case, we're getting paid $2,500 a month for just sending these leads. And this is basically a no money down deal that we're paying that landscaper. All of these industries are really, really great. There are these businesses that are out there. There are a lot of baby boomers that are having to exit these businesses, and they're just walking away from what they've built up all of these years with that incoming traffic. Now, here's the other part is what I found, and that's what we're doing in the contracting company, is once we get that into a landscaping, and in that particular industry, a landscaping deal, then we start to build it in other cities, leveraging what they've already built. It's such a cool strategy. It's what we did with the Locksmith deal as well. But in that case, we went from first discussion of this deal to literally $2,500 within 2 weeks of me talking to him. So that was a really cool thing. So for me, I totally stumbled into this offline affiliate model. And quite honestly, now that I'm helping, I didn't really value it as much until I started helping other clients that are coming through the acquisition holdco process to implement this in their own businesses. And, I was having that conversation with Lucas, like, oh man, like this is killer. It's just a really great hidden treasure of a business model. And listen, this isn't anything that's magical either. It's a pretty simple business model. It's one of those hidden treasures that's just hidden in plain sight, because you can generate substantial income from it. And you end up in a situation where you're helping a small business, and at the same time you're getting something that is of value that you can put into a special purpose vehicle and eventually exit out of, because I don't want to just do these deals and make that money and not eventually be able to exit. And at the end of the day, it really is just a simple model. You're basically either taking over a business and getting access to these websites that are generating the traffic. You're building these websites from scratch. We're going to talk about that on the training. You're getting the initial ranking, and this is so different than what we've had to do. So I've built websites and bought websites and tried to grow them where we're competing against the whole internet. In these cases, because it's a local business, you're only competing with the people in that city. So it becomes a lot easier to rank them and start to generate that traffic and get phone calls that then you can sell to other people or rent out for a monthly, $2,500 like we're doing in that landscaping case. So if you are watching this, if you're one of my subscribers, you're gonna love this model. The thing that I love is, whenever I am in the U.S. and I start talking to a business owner, the thing that all of them want, the number one thing they want is money. They want to make more money, but they understand that the way that they're going to get that is more leads. So there's just very few conversations that I don't sit there and realize, like, man, if I have more time, there's so much money to be made by just generating more leads for this business with this offline affiliate model. Now, some of you will realize, like I did with the locksmith, that you may not even want to do the work of trying to get a deal, and the website is generating traffic, and you're just going to take over that business and really to get that asset and just send it to someone else because you don't want to operate the business. As y'all know, I'm not buying businesses where I got to take over operations. I don't want to run a business. That is not the goal of this thing. I want to get deals where we're generating income without having to take over the operation. And that's one of the other great things about this model. Now, so a lot of you will realize that you don't necessarily have to do the deal. You don't want to do the work to get it ranked and all that. Because it's local, you can just run ads at a very cheap rate and be able to generate leads for the business and basically rent that website out or sell those leads on an individual basis. Because a lot of these businesses aren't spending money on ads. They don't want to do that. They don't understand how to do that. They're not going to hire an agency to do that. But when you just tell them, hey, you don't have to hire an agency. You don't have to figure out who to hire. Da, da, da. This is you. You are the one that sets it up. You start to generate the leads. You see how many leads on average it's generating. You tell them, hey, this is on average. It's going to go up and down, but I want you to pay me this amount, and you're paying 30% of that in the Abbey. It's amazing, amazing business. Now, personally, it took me a long time to see this business model. It was like literally, I'm doing it. We closed that locksmith deal, and it was a long time. Like I said, I'll put the book below of the example, but it took me reading that book and me realizing, like, oh, I am doing this. Like I'm doing this, and he built this up. So he went to other cities and he built this up into a multi-million-dollar business that he ended up exiting. And I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't have the vision to understand that you could rake in millions with something that was so simple. So over that time, I've met other people where I've been talking about this and met people that are making thousands of dollars per month, and then I've been able to help people to implement this offline affiliate model. So if you're interested in that, be sure to join when you get into the Patreon. When you log in, for y'all that are already members, there's a post. You can see where to join this training. It's going to be cool. It's going to be really valuable, and come with questions on how all of this works. I'm actually inviting the Acquisition Holdco members to come to this training as well, because I want them to get a foundation. Obviously, with them, they're getting coaching, so we're going to be building this out. But they're going to be coming to this call as well. So Google's made some significant changes. There's a lot of things to be aware of with this, with some of the changes that have already happened and are going to be happening. So I want you to be prepared. I want you to be able to take advantage of this. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you're not a Patreon, join the Patreon. And hey, I'll be back soon to chat with y'all.